Good morning to the Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, online viewers, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM and respective radio stations island-wide. I'm Relaika Roach and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, March 4th, 2020. Before we get started, I would like to inform the viewing and listening public to stay tuned right after this press briefing for a follow-up press briefing with the Prime Minister and EOC members with regards to an update on the novel coronavirus. At this time, I invite the Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport and Telecommunication, the Honorable Melissa Doncha Arundel, to address you.
Good morning, fellow ministers, media personnel, and the general public. It gives me great pleasure today to be here with you. As you are aware, I have been out for some time due to a medical situation beyond my control, but through God's grace, I am here today and able. Therefore, with this medium, please allow me to express my heartfelt thank you to the public, to the fellow ministers, and to everyone for extending their prayers and best wishes while I was ill. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Arundel Doncher, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Minister of Public Health, Social Development, and Labor, the Honorable Pamela Gordon-Carty, to address you.
Good morning. Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning, Prime Minister, colleague ministers, and the public listening into the different medias. I've been getting some questions regarding the coronavirus, the COVID-19, where there seems to be some questions about where the Ministry of VSA stands. I would like to clarify that to the public. As the AOC has been activated and therefore the COVID-19 has become a national matter, we as the Ministry of Public Health will continue in the background through CPS to inform all the ministries, the public, and our stakeholders on the development and hygiene aspects that we as a country need to continue adhering ourselves to. It's important for us as a whole to continue monitoring and following official sites that will be providing accurate information to the public to continue guaranteeing the safety of the people of St. Martin. Remember, proper hygiene, washing of hands, sneezing, and coughing etiquette are extremely important to contain the spreading of any type of virus, including the COVID-19. Usage of water and soap regularly, and especially after the 5th time of using hand sanitizer, it's extremely important for you to wash your hands with water and soap. Let's make sure we, as a country as a whole, and especially parents, convey this message to our little ones. On a second notice, the Inspectorate will continue conducting its food safety controls and controls at the daycare centers. The Inspectorate had a meeting yesterday with the Association of Daycares, where 38 private established daycares were attended, and also 4 to 5 early childhood stimulation representatives were there. There, they were informed on the different procedures and preventative measures that needs to be taken into account when dealing with the COVID-19. Last but not least, CPS will continue to exercise its role within the entire COVID-19 prevention and informative sessions. If there is any questions, we will await those after the briefing. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Gordon-Carty, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, the Honorable Sylveria Jacobs, to address you.
Thank you, Ms. Roach. Good morning to you. Good morning to my colleague ministers, the media present, those in the Tribune, and all those following. Good morning, St. Martin. As Minister Gordon has stated, and also as Ms. Roach has indicated, after this broadcast, I will be, together with specific members of the EOC, be hosting a press conference where we can go further in depth into our preparedness and response to the COVID-19 virus, which has become a worldwide threat. However, to update you on some recent meetings held, on Monday, I met with our French counterpart, Ms. the Prefect Sylvie Fauchère, to discuss the developments surrounding the COVID-19 virus and its presence on St. Martin. St. Martin currently has St. Martin Dutch side, has absolutely no suspected nor confirmed cases of COVID-19. However, we have agreed as one island to sit together on a weekly basis to monitor, coordinate, and update each other, as well as that our departments that are currently coordinating with each other, that they would do so on a daily basis. Should anything change, we will be immediately apprised of the situation, as we were in the weekend when we were informed of the 2 cases as confirmed on French St. Martin. The update from the Prefet on these 2 cases are that they remain asymptomatic, meaning that they have no symptoms, but remain quarantined due to the fact that they were in transit, they were visitors, and have no residence on the island. In a usual case, such patients or confirmed passengers would have been able to remain confined in their own homes or hotel room. But seeing that they were about to leave the island, that is the reason why they are being held at the hospital. And they are in very good condition, as is their son, who resides in St. Bart's. He is confined at his home and is also now not showing any more symptoms. Other topics of discussion with the Prefet related to the international component, seeing that St. Martin has that hub function, and many of the travelers coming to French St. Martin and forward on to St. Bart's travel through our airport. We are looking seriously at imposing some travel restrictions, and procedures at our ports of entry. Ferries have been stepped up to include questioning passengers that they would have to confirm where they have been over the past 2 weeks especially, and any persons found to have been traveling to the cluster areas that have been identified would have to then undergo further screening. I would also like to communicate to the general public that because we are such a small island, that it would be wise for those of us traveling abroad as well from the island to refrain from visiting the cluster areas for the next foreseeable future until we are sure that we have been able to contain. St. Martin is at threat. If we look at the news responses from all around the world, everyone is just, who has not had a case yet, is just waiting to see when it will happen. The only way to completely protect the country would be to shut down our borders completely, and that is not recommended, not by international regulations. And as part of the kingdom, that would require a much further discussion, as travel inside the kingdom really relates to, for instance, for France, French side, St. Bart's, they consider that interior travel. Similarly, for within the Dutch kingdom, any travel between the Dutch Caribbean islands as well as the Netherlands is considered interior travel. So it would be discriminatory to do anything that would be negatively impacting traveling in those areas. However, we are still having discussions on how we can still restrict persons who have been to the cluster areas, or that we can identify that anyone showing symptoms would be necessarily screened. We will go into further detail on this topic, as mentioned before, in the press conference which will follow this press briefing. In other news related to the General Affairs Ministry, as Prime Minister, I received a courtesy visit from member of the European Parliament, Ms. Samira Rafaela, and member of the second chamber of the Dutch Parliament from the D66 party, Mr. Rob Jetten. Two very young members of parliament. They were quite excited to visit the Dutch Caribbean and their first time visiting St. Martin. Topics discovered were future cooperation within the Dutch kingdom, women's empowerment, seeing that Ms. Rafaela is a very young parliamentarian representing the kingdom in Europe. I think as St. Martin, we can find ways to facilitate our objectives through her as well. Youth development and cooperation with the European Union. Ms. Rafaela's objective was to develop a better relationship with St. Martin, and she believes there is a great opportunity and a potential to highlight our concerns and improve the situation for all our people throughout the kingdom. Another topic was that I would like to share with the general public is the single-use plastic. The Department of the Interior and Kingdom Relations, BAC, under SDG 12, Responsible Consumption and Production, SDG 13, Climate Action, and SDG 14, Life Below Water, recently launched 2 initiatives aimed to secure and promote the sustainable development of our country. The first initiative was the Single-Use Plastic Project with the slogan, St. Martin, Plastic Free by 2023. This project was launched in February 2020 and will continue until May of this year. It aims to engage the public by raising awareness about the dangers of single-use plastic, particularly during the carnival season. We're using the carnival season as the launching pad to bring awareness. As you know, this is a festival that has a high use of single-use plastic, foam, and the like. This project also aims at sharing information about alternative products in an effort to reduce plastic use on the island and predominantly during our upcoming season. This initiative brings awareness to the use of products, and the department has engaged stakeholders such as CAM's Food World on the Pondville and PDG Supplies in Colby, where biodegradable and reusable products are available. A second component to this project is a logo and waste competition, which is currently ongoing in both the primary and secondary schools on the island. The community and parents are hereby encouraged to support the children in these initiatives to reduce single-use plastic on our island. As you know, we are also in the process of dealing with legislation, but we believe that legislation can have an impact, but we must also control our behaviors in advance of legislation as responsible citizens. So I'm looking forward to the public's participation in reducing our plastic use, or single plastic use, especially over the next few months, that it becomes a habit. For more information on how you can get involved, please contact the Department of Interior and Kingdom Relations via our Facebook. The next point I would like to bring to our attention is the policy platform. On March 2nd, 2020, this week, the Ministry of General Affairs, also through the BAC, the Office of BAC, launched the policy platform. The objective of the policy platform is to strengthen and connect policy workers within public administration. Policy development is the core of any government, as it illustrates the manner in which government is expected to function. Policy also dictates a long-term vision and direction for its people. Having said this, the policy platform has been established to ensure cohesion and strategic integration of planning and policies, thereby elevating the work of the entire government apparatus. In short, the platform will bring together all policy advisors and workers from every ministry, pooling resources and expertise to ensure proper policy writing, promote transparency, and to avoid duplication of efforts. For this, an intranet, so a computer program, has been developed, making digital exchange, real-time editing, and collaboration possible. This all falls within the plans of this new coalition, as well as older governments, of cohesing and making sure that ministries are not operating as silos, but that when one policy affects the other, it is immediately aware and they can move forward as a unit. Earlier this week, I also met with the Princess Juliana International Airport CEO, as well as a visiting CFO, the visiting CFO from Schiphol Group. The CFO from the Schiphol Group is here together with her advisor and is assisting the CFO in terms of the planning and the project that is to be the new airport. So not in the day-to-day running of the airport, but I was able to get some information in terms of how they are supporting the management team at the Princess Juliana International Airport in preparation for the upcoming expansion and renovation works. International Women's Day is on March 8th. Of course, before the virus took a sudden emergency turn, there were many more plans in place which I have had to divulge my attention or divert my attention from. However, I would like to take this time to wish all women, as this is the last press briefing before Women's Day, all women on St. Martin and within the sound of my voice, a happy International Women's Day week and month. I would like to dedicate this month to highlighting the women of St. Martin, women, iconic women who have in the past made a great contribution to our development, who are currently making contributions to our development, and our youth, some of it who are already making contribution or who have potential to be great contributors to the development of St. Martin. I know for sure every single person has a female in their life that they can thank and they can promote, so I am encouraging that we do that during the month of March. It is International Women's Day on March 8th, a global day celebrating social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. So it's called the Day of Action for Accelerating Women's Equality. International Women's Day has been aimed to help nations across the globe eliminate discrimination against women, allow for equal opportunities in the work field, and this day focuses on helping us gain that full and equal participation in our local as well as global development. Once again, happy International Women's Day to all women. A multidisciplinary workshop will be held, early March, multidisciplinary workshops will be held on St. Martin in preparation of the Dutch Research Council NWO project, Islanders Under Threat. It is chaired by Professors Corinne Hoffman and Francio Guadalupe. This past week, I had an opportunity to attend a get-together to network with the multidisciplinary workshop teams and key stakeholders here on St. Martin and the Dutch Caribbean. This group of researchers will gather in St. Martin for a climate change summit this week, which will begin this evening. The team includes scientific researchers, governmental agencies, non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and grassroots organizations from the Caribbean and the Netherlands, who will be joining forces to discuss environmental challenges facing the Caribbean and its inhabitants with the objective of developing sustainable solutions to water management, food security, and shelter. With this, I've come to the end of the announcements that I had on behalf of the Ministry of General Affairs. I'll await questions from the media present. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs, for your opening remarks. The Minister of Justice, the Honorable Egbert Duran, the Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Development, Environment and Infrastructure, the Honorable Christopher Waver, and the Minister of Finance, the Honorable Artwell Edion, are all present, however, will not be making any opening statements, but are available for any questions the media may have. We now move on to the question and answer session. Dimitri Wheatfield of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Hi, so good morning to the Council of Ministers, Madam Prime Minister, and I want to wish welcome back to the Honorable Minister of TIAT, and good morning to St. Martin. My first question is to the Minister of Justice. Recently, your ministry released crime statistics from 2011 up until 2018. Considering that 2019 is now about 2 months behind us, when can we expect to get crime figures from 2019?
Good morning, Dimitri. Thank you for your question. I will check with the Chief of Police and I'll get back to you within short with the information in terms of when you can get those statistics.
Thank you, Minister Duran. Stephen Sterling of PJDC Radio, you have the floor.
Prime Minister, Ministers, good morning. My question is for the Minister of Finance. The 2020 40th Annual Heineken Regatta will officially start as of tomorrow. Can you give us an idea, if you may, as to how much is being made available to the organizing committee by the government of St. Martin?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Civilian. In terms of the sponsorship, you mean, or the fund? I think that question will be better posed to the Minister of TIAT, so I don't know if she has that information.
Yes, yes, I do. The amount was 300,000 guilders.
And if I may ask,
You may.
how many persons actually visited St. Martin last year for the Heineken Regatta? And how has St. Martin been benefiting from the hosting of this event?
Those figures I don't have on hand at the moment. I will get them for you. And reference to our assistance with the Heineken Regatta Committee has been going very well. Everything has been organized and has been flowing accordingly to their preparations.
Thank you, Minister Arundel Doncher. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin and the ministers that are here present today. Minister, question to Minister of Health, yeah? Minister Gordon Carty, okay, Gordon Carty. Minister, the people are panicking up to now as we speak in regards to the coronavirus. Minister, it has been said by government up to now there is no case and that's St. Martin. Can you inform the people if there are any symptoms so far of the coronavirus exists anywhere and Dutch St. Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your question. So far, based on official information that we have received from the different stakeholders, at this moment there is none registered cases on the Dutch St. Martin.
Thank you, Minister Gordon Carty. We now move on to the second round of questions. Dimitri, you have the floor.
Hi, my second question is to the Minister of Finance, Adwell Irian. My question is regarding the license plates. You said, I think last week, that the contractor pulled out from delivering the number plates. Have you considered alternatives to number plates, such as stickers?
Good morning to you, Dimitri. I also said that initially the contractor pulled out, and then the second issue was the delivery pertaining to, with the second contractor, the delivery pertaining to the coronavirus and the shipment from China. Yes, we are currently looking at alternative solutions, and as soon as after the press briefing, I'll be discussing with the head, Ms. Minerva and Ms. Hazel, pertaining to alternative solutions for the number plates, and an update on the latest delivery.
Thank you, Minister Edion. Stephen Cerulean, you have the floor.
Prime Minister responsible for General Affairs, last week, Wednesday, you were supposed to have led a delegation of the Council of Ministers to the post office for discussion. Can you provide some information as to your findings?
Thank you, Mr. Cerulean. My findings were only to see what had already been reported, but together with the Council of Ministers who were able to, the members of the Council of Ministers who were able to accompany me, we were able to see some of the challenges the post office is currently facing in the new location. While they are grateful for the location, there are some challenges with space. As a result, I have had discussions with our facilities manager as well as Mr. Labega, who is DMO, to ensure that more space, which is at the back, is made available, as there was really not enough. It's not conducive to the working environment. However, I must commend the postal workers for continuing to work, even though the circumstances are not optimal. And together we are looking for solutions. Prior to that visit, we had already assisted in ensuring that proper cleaning was taking place, as well as ensuring that security was present. What is coming next is the placement of an ATM machine. So we were able to see where the ATM machine would be located. It would be outside of the current post office location so that other vendors, persons from the government building or within the vicinity could also make use of it during the day as well as nighttime. So it is not restricted for postal workers, but the permission was given to have it erected on the property so that there is access, so that some of postal's services could also be facilitated. We also looked at possibilities of expanding the space where they are so that they are able to carry out the other services that have fallen off once they have met the requirements with the financial institutions.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs. Lyndon Brown, you have the floor.
Question to the Minister of Justice. Minister of Justice, it have harshly present that you have been refusing to comply with a group of lawyers to remove prisoners to the Netherlands and also Bonaire. Is this statement correct? And what do you have in plan? Do you have a quick fix?
Mr. Brown, I didn't quite get your question. You say if the statement is correct. Which statement are you referring to exactly?
That you haven't complied with the wishes of the lawyers and their clients in the prison.
But what are you referring to exactly? Which wishes? I want to answer your question.
The wishes mean that in 7 days, the prisoners are supposed to leave St. Martin.
Okay, as I stated last week as well, the timeline is not a realistic timeline to move 37 inmates. We are seeking alternative solutions in regards to the Simpson Bay location and so forth in order to shift around to deal with the renovations that need to take place. But in any event, the Point Blanche prison and the staff are working to get those solutions. So in regards to the not complying or refusing, I don't agree with that. So that is some clarity as to what is taking place. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Minister Duran. We now move on to the third round of questions. Dimitri, you have the floor.
My third question is to both the Minister of Health and the Prime Minister. It is concerning the coronavirus COVID-19. What is St. Martin's capabilities as to testing for the virus?
Thank you, Dimitri. Just as with most small islands, the opportunity to test on island is not yet available on St. Martin, but we do have agreements where it is tested in the Netherlands for the Dutch side and in Guadeloupe for the French side.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs. Stephen Cirilin, you have the floor.
My question is for the Minister of VSA. With the hosting of the Heineken Regatta, were you privy, Minister, to meet with the organizing committee as it pertains to discussions surrounding the coronavirus?
I'll take that question. As the EOC has been established, everything that relates to any question, safety, health, regarding the coronavirus will be dealt with by my person, even with the assistance and the collaboration of the minister and the ministry. What I can say is that the regatta organization has been from the onset in cooperation with CPS and the health department, as well as the Ministry of TIAT. We have received an overview from them. We've had discussions as to what is minimally required for the event to be able to take place in terms of health, sanitation, and hygiene, awareness, etc. And we've received an overview from them as to what their protocols and procedures have been already in preparation of. They are also pertaining to justice. They have to have their lists and manifests of their registered participants in all the races, which have to go through the Ministry of Justice procedures according to law in terms of having health declarations on board, just like with every other sailing vessel. So those things will be checked and double-checked by the Ministry of Justice through the Immigration Department. CPS has and the Red Cross will assist, if necessary, with authenticating whatever medical declarations have been issued. Of course, we are only concerned about persons who have traveled to the clustered area within the past few weeks. And in fact, the minister has issued a decree which requires them to identify and declare where they have traveled up to the past 6 months. So we are actually being quite strict with that. This has been part of our law for some time, but the enforcement of it has been, ramped up a notch. As it pertains to, they are also participating in promoting, ensuring that there is sufficient hand sanitizing capabilities or facilities at the location. It is an enclosed location at the Port de Plaisance, and we are in close cooperation and collaboration with them to ensure that all of this will be done. As a result of our meeting over the weekend with the EOC, CPS has agreed to also do a training with all the volunteers and workers of the regatta to ensure that all are utilizing proper health procedures where it relates to food, service, etc. So everything in terms of being in contact with many people. Of course, I would like to state to the people of St. Martin is that across the world, it is being asked to minimize your contact with large groups of people. So for the local population, I would say those that have a fear, the best thing is to stay away from large groups that are, congregating. And that could be, and the most vulnerable group, we do know even across the world that the most vulnerable persons are children. Even though there have been no cases, we know that children are more susceptible and vulnerable, as well as the elderly. In cases where persons have died, it has been mainly persons above the age of 70 plus. So we really would like that persons be cautious in and of themselves, carry out their own proper sanitation and hygiene procedures, and avoid large gatherings as much as possible. But also to remember that there are no cases on the Dutch side, none probable nor confirmed, as well as that casual contact is zero to almost no possibility of getting the virus. The couple that was on St. Martin did pass through St. Martin, but the persons that came in direct contact with them were also suited up, and when they, let's say, took off some of their gear because the couple was didn't have any symptoms, they were also, for their own protection, if they felt that they would be exposed, they have also been asked to remain in self-isolation for a duration of time to ensure that they don't develop symptoms. But so far, nobody who has been in contact has shown symptoms, and the couple was here since the 21st. So Friday will actually be 2 weeks since anyone has been exposed, and they would have shown symptoms by now.
Thank you, Prime Minister Jacobs. Lyndon, you have the floor.
Question again to Minister Garland Carty. Minister, there's a reason why person have took away from the ship for reason by the authority of St. Martin. You will make it straight or plain if it's not accurate. Minister, there's a lot of people on person who are categorizing symptoms of the corona virus. It also said there are 7 different categories of the virus. And we just been careful that some people have belly hurting, coughing, and they are making their own analysis. You have mentioned the different categories of the virus, but can you make it plain again to the people, because everybody become analysts these days and giving their own opinion. So let the people know plainly.
The COVID-19, the COVID-19 is, the name was priorly coronavirus because it was in the group that was shown as a crown. So based on the developments, they changed the name to COVID-19. But we have to remember that it have symptoms, it provides symptoms just like a normal flu. The only thing with the COVID-19 is that it has more respiratory problems. So if there is the coughing, the sneezing, the normal symptoms that you get when you have a flu, if that is add on to it, the respiratory problem to a certain extent, that makes it become like symptomatic to COVID-19. But it is a normal flu, just in a higher level of sense that you have to take more precautions when it comes to the respiratory avenues that are being blocked and being infected. So basically, you can say that that's why the measures that are being taken, it has to continue when it comes to other normal flus that will continue developing along the future as well, because it doesn't stop at COVID-19. It is a flu in a different category when it comes to respiratory problems. It can become more serious, and therefore, with measures that has to be taken, that maybe you might have to be hospitalized or that you have to stay home. But it is a flu. It is a flu on a higher level, basically. That's what it is. So that's why you take the normal measures that you would take when you have a flu. The washing of the hands, the etiquette, the sneezing etiquette, the coughing etiquettes, and things like that. And that's the reason why sometimes they does have the patients them isolated home as well. But when they have the problem of respiration, then they have to be hospitalized. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Minister Gordon Carty. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, March 4th, 2020. For rebroadcast, tune in on St. Martin Cable TV and via St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM. For video on demand, log on to the official government's website at stmartingov.org. On behalf of the Department of Communication and of the Government of St. Martin, I'm Roleika Roach, and bidding you a pleasant day further.